there were 9,900 American planes that went down, a mix of mostly bombers, some fighters, and other aircraft. And in those planes, there was roughly 90,000 American flyers. Of the 90,000 lives, there were 70,000 that were killed in the event of being shot down, either in the air or coming down in parachutes and being killed by civilians or killed on impact of the aircraft. And 20,000 became prisoners of war.
I went up the top hatch, and I came down, right, and the Germans were waiting for me. And the first thing they said, "For you, the war is over." I think they take that in basic training.
I landed maybe 30, 40 feet from a row of trees. I saw people in fields around me as I glanced around, but from there you don't know whether they're good people or bad ones. And so as soon as I got on the ground, as soon as I saw the tops of the trees, you hit the ground the same instant. I mean, then you realize when you're down even with something, you realize just how fast you are going, because the last 50 feet was before I could blink.
We were told to free fall because occasionally German fighters shot guys falling in a parachute, and I didn't look forward to anything like that. Plus, you didn't want the people on the ground to see you. We were at 28,000. So I imagine I fell 15, 17,000, something like that. It's pretty windy at that speed. Then I got to the ground. Before I was in the chute long enough to see there were people all around that saw me as soon as I opened my chute. So all my precautions didn't help much.
Pete and I landed in this little open area in this forest. And he got caught up in the tree, and his feet were about 6 inches off the ground. And I landed right out in the open in mossy area where it didn't hurt me a bit. And I carried a knife all the time. I ran over and cut him down.
I heard you could guide them damn parachutes, but I couldn't guide mine because one of my arms was shot up too bad. And so I just landed in second growth timber. Was no harder than jumping off the bed.
I jumped about 900, 12,000, over 1,000 feet. And parachute worked. They always told us, the girls who packed the parachute said, "Now remember, if it doesn't work, you can bring it back and we'll give you another one." But this one worked.
All of a sudden, there's a big noise and an explosion back up here, and I have a steel helmet on and a flak suit, and I feel the force of it, and I look down and my navigation table is gone, just gone. You're just smoking elements around, you know. I come out of the bomb bay doors, I kind of lift myself up, and I'm looking at the co-pilot, and he's looking. I yell at him, or he looks around, and I say, "Come on," and he said, "Go on," to me, and now I know he was badly wounded when he went like that, and then the plane did something, and I fell out. I didn't bail out. I fell out. I just fell backwards out, and it goes from all this noise and smoke and confusion, and all of a sudden you're floating through the air, and it's quiet.
The Hitler Youth, you know, the 16, 15-year-old kids, the company of them came out, and they were beating the brush for me until they found me. And they were pretty nice, and this German guard, the soldier that was in charge of him, he came up to me and he pulled his pistol out and stuck it right against my temple, and he said, "English or American?" And then, you know, you got to think twice before you answer that. You got to try to figure out who in the hell he was mad at. If you said English, and he was mad at the English, he's going to shoot you. If you said American, and he said if he was mad at the American, he's going to shoot you. But if you said English, and he found out you were American, he was going to shoot you anyway. So he asked me, and I said, I'm American. Oh, he says, scoot, stuck his pistol back in, and we walked leisurely out through the woods. I couldn't walk very fast because I had a piece of shrapnel about 1 inch long stuck in my heel. And we ate blackberries, and we tried to, I couldn't talk German, he couldn't talk English, but we got a few things out of it. And he was nice, and they put me in a car, little Volkswagen, took me to this Gestapo place up on the hill. Then the guy that was so nice, when he got up there and the Gestapo got there, he yanked the door open, grabbed me by the collar, threw me out on the ground and kicked me 2 or 3 times and cussed me out in German. I guess he was just doing that for the Gestapo's benefit.
We were quite close to the Yugoslavian border. Graz is right there. And we thought we had a pretty good chance. So Pete and I started out. Then we heard some noises, people coming up behind us. So we ran up into the brush and hid. And here was the rest of our crew that had been captured. And they were marching in front of us. So we just kept quiet and let them go. So we walked all that day and then all that night. And the next morning, I don't know how far we got. It was mountainous territory. He was in a lot of pain, and we came to a house. We were up on a hill looking down on this house, and it was just dawn. And we stayed there and watched the house to make sure there wasn't any men around, maybe just women, or maybe it wasn't occupied. But nobody seemed to show, so Pete he carried, we were all issued a pistol, but I never carried mine. I had a knife, and I didn't know what good a pistol would do anyway, but he gave me his pistol, and he went on down to the farm to get his hands taken care of, maybe some kind of medication, and get some relief. So I sat there on this hillside watching the house, and he knocked on the door and went in. And then I went to sleep. And when I woke up, he was coming out of the door with an old man with a rifle in his back, a shotgun turned out to be. And so I figured we'd had it, except that they came towards me and then over to the left. And so I had Pete's pistol, and I thought it was quite an old man, about my age now. And he had this shotgun right at Pete's back and was marching him down the little trail. So I came in behind him, and I was going to hit this guy or knock his gun away, and we'd take off again. But he heard the brush snap or something. He turned around, and he had this shotgun. It was over and under barrel shotgun, and he was shaking, and I could tell he was going to fire, so I threw my pistol up in the air and I lit the ground, and he did fire right over my head, and he wasn't more than 25 feet away, I guess. So and then I threw up my hands and threw the gun up in the air, and so he had 2 of us now.
I got away for 5 days. Until I didn't have anything to eat. Wandered down, and I saw this little farm shack, and went in the front door, and we went to the front door and knocked on the door, and in